Good morning. Well, I'm a bit tired, but it is the first morning after a night shift. How are we feeling? Could be better, honestly. Could not be going a night shift and just work normal day shifts, but we're in this situation, aren't we? So, one down, we've got a whole lot to go. Anyways, we'll just figure it out as we go, to be honest. But, bit of an interesting one. We were driving home. We handed over. Everything was smooth at the handover. Eventually got in the car. We had to go fill up petrol. We did that successfully. That took a little bit of a detour to try to get home. Then we're driving home and I was like, man, I'm so tired. Like, almost like dangerous level tired. So we got halfway through the drive and we're like, we need to stop off like ASAP. And then we actually ended up going to this cafe that we used to go to at our old hospital. So it's like right near it. It only opens from like Thursdays till like Sundays or something like that. It's like only open like 4 days a week. I actually love this, and they do like the best pastries. Had to go get myself a little almond croissant just to wake me up and give myself a little bit of an energy boost, because I was like not in a good place. I was like so tired and wrecked. I hadn't slept that much the day before. This is what I'm talking about. Like, even if you're well rested, just being awake for that many hours without sleep is like dangerous level. So we stopped off there. I actually called one of the old people who were on my team before this, and because I needed to pick up some like award thing that I had got the year before, and it just sort of helps with like points and everything. It's not like a big fancy award. It's just essentially like, you know, a bit of paper that says, oh, you know, you did all right last year, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, I was going to pick that up. Ended up meeting the whole new urology team for this year, which was, I was just too frazzled. Like, I'd been awake for so many hours. I was not in a place to like, you know, chat and be friendly, and you know, I just needed to go get my croissant down and go home. But and anyways, we ended up chatting for a bit. So by the time I actually got home, it wasn't until like 9:30 I got to sleep. So it's currently 4:15, almost 4:30. We're gonna go get some food now, and we might, what I often did is, like, as soon as I woke up, actually got outside and, you know, back when I was doing night shifts last year, is got outside and actually went for like a little bit of a walk. So whether I do that now might be a pretty good idea. I'm not sure. Might just get some sunlight, because otherwise you actually do not see the light of day. You rock up at night time, you leave in the daytime. That's the only bit of daylight you see, and then you go to sleep and essentially you wake up when it's darker. But it's still summer-ish now. It'll get darker sooner now that it's going into, you know, the rest of the year. But first up, might get some sunlight, then we get some food, and then we enjoy our last few hours of freedom before we have to go into work. Alright, figure it out.
Yeah, so as you can see, this place is an absolute mess. Like, look at this stuff, you know, cutting board everywhere. The dehydrator's going well though, so just going to check on these oranges, if I can peel it off. Yeah, they're actually a bit more like juicy than usual. Usually I leave them for like 2 days, but no, I actually thought they were okay. So I'm actually going to get the chocolate out. It's been about 24 hours. And we're going to go melt some chocolate, get all that old gold 70% into that bowl. Has to be dark chocolate, of course. I don't know why I'm doing that face. Let's nuke it for a couple of minutes. I think it's ready. So let's go get that chocolate out. Yeah, stir around, get all those little chunks out so it's nice and smooth. Oh, look at that. It's got that little ripple thing off the top of the spoon. That's pretty good. So yeah, essentially what I do, just grab a cutting board and then get a new like tier of this dehydrator, dip it in, let that excess chocolate drip off, and we're going to just simply start layering these around. I find it's like, honestly, like some of the best stuff to do on your day off is just, you know, have yourself like a little hobby or like a little activity that you can actually enjoy, so that in your time off, you're not thinking about work. You're not thinking about just going back to the night shift. I think that can be a bit monotonous and a bit like, you know, too much, to be honest. So I'm actually not too fast. Don't mind that. Look at that. Looks pretty like that. So yeah, we just get another stack on there and then we're done. So we've got that third stack there. Got to try some, obviously. My hands are covered in chocolate, by the way. Don't mind it. I think I went back for a second one. Love it. Absolutely love it. Hands a mess. As you can see, my fridge is absolutely empty. Pretty much yogurt, hummus, some beer I do not drink, and yeah, we're gonna get stuck into that work. I think I was just I used the rest of the melted chocolate bowl to put in like some granola and some muesli, and yeah, then brother just popped up, FaceTime. I think he wants to play FIFA or something, so maybe I'll make a little coffee. Jeez, that crema looks so good. Sick of that plunger coffee, honestly. No crema on that plunger. And yeah, we're going to hit up that FIFA. Like, bit of FIFA, bit of dehydrated oranges. I don't think I could have had a better day off before I head into my second night shift. Still got this guy going on the FaceTime and the coffee. He didn't have his headset there for some reason, so I don't know what he was doing. We'll say bye to him. For some reason, I decided to film the 10 seconds of push-ups that I wanted to do. Got super motivated. I don't know what I was thinking. Tried to do a workout and thought I would just make the most of this momentum that I had. I don't know. Sometimes it just overcomes me. And yeah, pretty tough workout, as you can see. Good day for it, and that really took it out of me. So yeah, but then we actually went back and did a proper workout. And now, shower time. Jeez, we crammed a lot in that morning off. Dead.
Night shift number 2. Away we go. It's just after 7. We're headed in. It's a bit like relentless, the night shift, in terms of what you can do outside of work. Very limiting. If you think about it, the night shift itself is essentially a 12-hour shift, 8 till 8. So you get there at 8, you start, and you hand over about 7:30. But I think, you start handing over at 7:30, but by the time you're done with it, it is essentially 8. And then obviously you got the drive home. I'm coming back into the city, so a bit of peak hour, isn't it? Took me 40 minutes to get home today, and I even had to stop off, get some fuel. Croissant, obviously. Love that place. So essentially, by the time you actually get home, might be about 9:30, and then, so let's say you sleep for 7 hours, and it's about an hour each way to get to work, let's just call it. Leave at 7, get home at 9. So 12 hours becomes 14 hours. Let's say you sleep for 7 hours on a good day. That's 21. How many hours left? 3. So, yeah, and obviously not 3. So, good reference for any of those who understood what I was talking about. But yeah, 3 hours of the day to really do stuff. If you're not pushing it, you don't leave early, you don't do anything else. 3 hours probably is the maximum amount of quality time you can spend without overdoing it. And probably even less than that, to be fair, because you think, you got to eat, you got to wake up, shower, exercise. There's not a whole lot of time where you can do whatever you want. However, I think I will say this, it does actually force you to make the most of your time on night shift, because you're so thankful that you get like some respite from work when you're not, working overnight. Because it's not very fun working at like 2:30, 3 a.m. Jeez, that sunset is delightful. So yeah, that's just a bit of perspective in terms of like the hours that you spend working on night shift. And people do it a bit differently. Some people will do 7 days on and then 7 days off. That's what I'm currently on now. So we're on night 2. Some other people, like I know nursing staff, do it slightly differently. And they actually, in my opinion, have it not as good, because, or whatever hospitals do it this way as well. Like some doctors might actually work on this sort of schedule where they do like 3 days on or 4 days on and then they get a few days off. I don't know, I feel like I'd rather just get settled into a rhythm than get them out of the way. Like I don't want to get 3 or 4 nights in and then have to swap back to days only to then readjust in a couple of days time. Also, it's not the worst thing in the world to get some extended time off after a period of being at work grinding for a whole week. So a week off, you can actually go away on holidays. People have like literally left on the day they finish, gone away for a week, and then come back the next week just to get stuck back into night shifts. It's not a bad way to do it, and you actually really get to treat yourself. And I feel like it's good. Like when you're at work, then you're working, you're like really focused and you're getting through and you're doing good stuff. But when you're not at work, mind is completely elsewhere, which I like that idea of being 100% focused, and then when you're not there, actually taking some much needed time off. So we've got some rice for dinner. We left some rice in the fridge at the resis as well. So hopefully that should sustain us for the whole night. It'll all depend on how much work we have to get through, how much stuff is pending when we get there. I feel like this is looking ominous, this shift, I'll be honest. One of the main reasons is that we haven't had a second admitting registrar helping out. They're off sick, I think. So that's for today, tomorrow, and Sunday. And usually I have a second person who stays with me until about 11ish or so, just to smooth the transition. I think that's something that they've recently put into place. But now, I don't know if we have that today. So I think it's just a straight up handover at 8 o'clock. Wondering when we'll get some food as well for the night shift. We need to increase the vibes. Maybe all bond together and get some food or something. It's interesting at the hospital overnight. Everything comes in waves. So you'll have a period of the night where maybe there's a lot of like surgical stuff happening, and then you'll have a bit of a lull where the surgical people won't really be doing too much. But then at that time, it's like weird how it all works, but the medical people will actually be more busy. And then there might be an influx of people into the emergency department. Yeah, just wave and wave and wave. So yeah, when you're not doing too much, the other people will just be like super, super busy. And yeah, just comes in waves. I wonder if we'll have to do any operations as well tonight. Help scrub in. What is happening? Maybe they can take me to work. Might actually get to work on time. I feel like I'm always running late, like chronically late. I saw a post as well, just before. It was obviously stock standard Reddit post, and it was this PGY3, wasn't me, complaining about their intern not being that great, rocking up to work late, not working as a team player, essentially not updating their notes in time, just being a bit scrappy and lazy at their job. And they put it to the Reddit forum and wanted to get some feedback as to what they should do about that entire situation. And it's a tricky one. I mean, as a senior colleague to a junior doctor who is obviously having some difficulties. Maybe, you know, they've got their own stuff going on at home. Maybe they've got their own issues. I think that's the biggest thing to think of when someone's not performing that well at work, or at the standard at least that you'd expect. I think it's interesting when you're in a specialty and you're keen on it, and then someone else comes into that specialty and they don't have the same enthusiasm as you maybe did, because and it's not unreasonable. Like, you shouldn't expect someone to come into that specialty and actually, like, you know, fully embrace it to the extent that they want to get so good at this specialty to, like, pursue it as a career. That's unreasonable, I think, because you might have a person like an intern who's just rotating through, say, orthopedics, just because that's what the rotation was that they got allocated to. And then if you're an orthopedic registrar or a trainee and you're getting frustrated at this person because they're not going above and beyond for the job like you would have done, is that a bad thing? I mean, that's a distinction. It sounds like this post that I'm referring to, like the person is actually not doing their basic requirements of the role, which is different. So interns should be expected to do A, B, and C. But if they're not staying back at late at work doing overtime, if they're not, you know, staying late to help assist the consultants in these operations, if they're not doing research on the side to try to improve themselves and improve their chances at getting onto an orthopedic training program, yeah, that's not something to get mad at them for, because they might be interested in radiology or some random thing. What's this guy doing? This guy almost crashed into me. Swear to God, I couldn't have another car crash. Oh, green light as well? What a win. Yeah, so I think that's an important distinction to make in terms of career interests and passion and dedication at work. They may actually not really be interested in fully exhausting themselves and going 120% at the job, where they're more interested in other things. And I guess at the end of the day, it is a job, and that's what it is. You know, people look at it like it's more than that, and sometimes expect so much of people that they actually end up getting burnt out. And I think it is not unreasonable to expect people to be focused at work, do their job, not burn themselves into the ground so much so that they are wrecked by the time they get home and they can't actually enjoy the stuff that they do at work. And it's finding a balance. It's not easy, because sometimes there's just things that pop up and gets very busy, and, you know, sometimes it becomes like a high stress situation. So it's not a clear cut answer, but it's just having that thought in mind so that you can maybe pull back and push hard at different points for different people. The other perspective to note from that is the other people in the team at work, the other residents. Maybe there's another intern. Of course, you need to factor in the patient population as well. But in terms of the team dynamic, if I'm working in a team and someone's not pulling their weight, I mean, this is a classic interview question where people are not doing that well at work, and you notice they're like, you know, one particular colleague you might notice is not, you know, doing that well. They look a bit down, a bit sad. How do you approach it? There's a few different perspectives that you can take for this, and you just essentially have to consider different escalation patterns, your relationship with that person, and if you're the right person to be speaking to them, checking if they're okay, checking if they want to speak to someone, or if it's not in your wheelhouse or you feel a bit uncomfortable, escalating that to another senior colleague or a supervisor. So all the junior doctors at the workplace have supervisors. There's different ones for different seniorities of doctors. So just making sure that you know the right contact person for that level of doctor, and just making them aware that, hey, this person's maybe just needs to check in, and that's fine. It's not like a big deal. It's just making sure that they get the right support in a timely fashion. So, and this doesn't have to be like in the open, but just making other people aware of that is really important. Tricky situation for that person who feels like, if we just go back to that specific post, if I'm a PGY3 and my intern's not doing that well and they're slacking off and the other people are getting a bit frustrated, just being cautious and taking it one step at a time, making sure you dot the I's and cross the T's is super important to make sure that the people in your team feel acknowledged and supported and not getting burnt out by taking up too much of the other person's work. And then in the same token, making sure that intern who's not performing that well is actually doing okay, and there's nothing else that we can do to help support them. And maybe they need a chop out. Maybe it's about taking some time off work, getting some people to help out, to fill in, taking some personal leave or whatever it is. And then also for the patient perspective, which arguably may be one of the most important perspectives to consider, is that this stuff at work, like, we are human and we do make mistakes and we are not always the most perfect people, but having that so it doesn't overflow and cascade into adverse outcomes and complications for patients is a super, super important perspective to take. So being able to control things as much as you can without becoming robotic and almost impersonal, and not allowing yourself to feel emotions or feel things, and just be a complete, stable person the whole 100% of the time, virtually impossible. But ebbs and flows, and when you feel like you're not at your best, taking time off or delegating to other people or getting other people to help out for you is very, very critical to maintaining quality outcomes for patients and giving them the best healthcare possible. I thought that was very interesting post to look at. I'm going to listen to some music or something now so I can debrief and chill out before my second night shift. Let's go in, get handover, see what the crack is. See how many people are pending an ED. And we're gonna get a room as well, because obviously we need to set up properly. Those rooms are elite. We'll check in later. So we've settled in for the night. We've found our room. We've actually got the same room as we did last night, which is good. I've still got my cup that I left here by accident. It's almost 1 o'clock, about 20 to 1. The night's been okay so far. The recording cut off before because, I don't know, I didn't charge my microphone, so we fixed that. Don't worry about it. We had a little bit of dinner, some fried rice with some chicken, which was nice, something we prepared earlier. We have 2 people to see, a urology one and a general surgery one. So we'll go and do that. We're just waiting on some blood tests and a scan for this guy as well. So yeah, and then we'll go see those 2 patients. We've seen one. They're going to come back in the morning for a scan. But other than that, not too much. We reviewed one person and sent them home, not coming into hospital. The other thing that we were talking about before, and one thing that I think is a really good thing to start doing for registrars on night shift, albeit my second night shift as registrar, already giving advice what is going on, is to message the consultant beforehand, before you start the night shift or very early on in a night shift, just to make them aware of who you are and what level you are, and I don't know, essentially just to be familiar with each other. I did that earlier, and I think it's just good to get on the same wavelength
I already know the person who's on call, and that's a good thing, I think. So you're just familiar with each other, and that's completely fine. But in terms of just making sure that you're aware of the person who's on, their name, just having their number in their phone is super, super important. I did the same thing for the urology boss on tonight, and I'll probably let them know about this other patient who probably needs to come in the early hours of the morning. And yeah, if they get really sick and need something done, then sure, but might have to wake them up. But we'll just see. We'll just see how it all goes. I think the overall principle is just make people aware of who you are, where you are, what your position is, and what to do, and who's comfortable doing what. Making more people aware is not a bad thing, and I think that the more clear people are in medicine, the better things are, and then the less complications and problems and issues arise from that, because everyone's just more understanding of who people are and what they are capable of. I think if you think about it in terms of like an acute situation, an emergency situation, like a code blue or a Met call, even just in acute resuscitation, people have stickers that literally tell them their jobs. So it couldn't be clearer who the person is who's scribing. It couldn't be clearer who the person is who is able to do CPR. They literally have a CPR person sticker. Even the anaesthetist who's looking after the airway, they literally just have airway, like a sticker that says that. So if you can extrapolate from that situation, clarity is a really, really big thing. And if you can just be clear in medicine, I think that solves a lot of your problems, to be honest. So yeah, what are we gonna do now? We found a Mars bar as well. Whoever's Mars bar this was, thank you. I'm gonna save the rest of that until early morning when I'm about to drive home, because this morning, my resident just messaging me. Whoever's Mars bar that was, thank you very much. One other thing as well, kind of an interesting one, and it's hard to not take it personal at the time. Yeah, it's hard to not take it personally at the time, but I was messaging the boss on for tonight. Some people have specific criteria or cutoffs when it comes to pediatric patients, so kids, in terms of how old they are, the weight that how much they weigh, everything like that, because it changes the management. So in the past, I've had people who will just straight up say, yes, that's okay, go see the patient. If it's borderline, then, they just and ah. If the person is too young or they weigh, too little, then they'll just send them off to a different hospital that specializes in pediatrics. But anyways, I hadn't actually seen the patient. I just messaged the consultant asking if they have a cutoff. They wanted a bit more information, like the story, examination findings. I said I haven't seen them. Got a bit rinsed, to be honest, for that. And it was a tricky one. I mean, to be fair, whenever you speak to a consultant or a senior doctor or anyone about a patient, it's really important that you go and review them. In my defense, there's been situations when people actually don't want those people to be reviewed. They actually want to be asked, and if you review them, then you muddy the waters a bit, and you essentially take responsibility for that patient, and then we'll have to make all the referrals and everything like that for that person. And so it's very consultant dependent, very person dependent. That's why I always ask the question at the beginning. I got rinsed because essentially I hadn't reviewed the patient and they wanted more information. But yeah, it's interesting. I think the main takeaway from that is, try to review all the patients before you actually speak to someone or ask them a clinical question. I think that's a really good takeaway, and maybe something I overlooked in that situation because I didn't specifically yeah, I was asking about a question that was around about that, and would actually, it actually change my management. So, yeah, that was an interesting one. But I think you just like try not to take things too personally in medicine. There's a lot of feedback and a lot of criticism, and people can, in any like specialty medicine, or in any field of work, there are going to be difficult personalities, whether you like it or not. And to receive feedback is a tricky one. You have to try to take it as impersonally as you can, whilst also taking it as personally as you can to improve on yourself. It's a hard sort of like oxymoron, like a weird dichotomy to deal with, to be honest. And I mean, I think you get better at it over time, because initially at the start you're like, oh, I've made a mistake, I'm in trouble, I'm like, you look at it like a very like childlike mindset. But stepping back from it, you just sort of think, well, things get a bit heated, or people have like rules that they live by, especially in medicine, and people may have had bad experiences in the past. So if they are very particular about something, it's important to respect that, whilst also maintain the fact that you got to listen to the more senior person and do what they want to do at the end of the day, because it's under their bed card. It's under their name that these patients get looked after. So that's an interesting thing in medicine. If you don't know, people who come into hospital, they get assigned to a person. That person is a consultant. They are the most senior person in the hospital for that particular unit. And if they are admitted under a certain person, then their name is on it. So anything that happens, that person whose name is on that patient is responsible. And that's the final takeaway, I think, that you need to consider. So if that particular consultant wants to do something, and yeah, you ultimately need to just like respect that consultant's decision and do what they want to do. Of course, with the patient's consent and anything like that. But yeah, interesting. If medicine was too straightforward, it wouldn't be fun, would it? Alright, I'm going to go see these two patients, and then we're going to get a coffee as well. I'm a bit tired, so let's get to it. Alrighty. Night 2 done. Hey, vibes are high. Vibes are very high. Bit busier than the first one. Steady influx. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people who came in. I saw 6. Sweet. Person just cut me off. And was about to see a 7th, but yeah, we didn't get to them in time. There's a few things to sort out. I think the main thing was the stage at which they came in. There was a lot later on in the piece where we actually had some people to see. It makes the handover bit, which I think is probably one of the most exhilarating things in a shift, when you get like a call from the consultant and they're like, tell me what's come in overnight, and you're like, this is what we play for. Like, let's go, let's hand over, let's do this. Have I made the right decisions? Have I made the right calls? We will see. If it's not urgent, just discuss with the consultant overnight. Discuss with the consultant in the morning and say, hey, I kept this patient, I was worried about them. I think they need A, B, or C. They'll say, don't worry about it. Or, yeah, I reckon that's pretty good. We did okay. We updated both of the bosses, told them about the patients, and went from there. We have all like a list of all the patients that we see and admit overnight in a messaging group, and we go through that. And I was lucky enough just to have that on standby, because you just have all the numbers ready and all the information that all the bosses want just at the tips of your fingers. So yeah, I think we did okay. We'll wait and see. There wasn't too much sick people that came in, and it was okay.
I'm feeling pretty tired. Slightly less tired than yesterday. Yesterday though, we had to actually had to stop off for a croissant yesterday. We got very drowsy, you know, pretty tired behind the wheel. It's very dangerous, I think, driving after a night shift in terms of how you're able to focus, and if you just, you know, start feeling a bit sleepy at the wheel, and can be very, very dangerous. So if you are feeling like that, just pull over, just take a rest, do what I did, stop over and get a croissant. I think if I feel that way again, I'm definitely going to hit up Macca's. It honestly is just survival mode. Even like I said I found that Mars bar at the start of the shift. That Mars bar was supposed to be for this drive home. If I got tired, that Mars bar got devoured about 5 hours into the shift, 4 or 5 hours into the shift. Didn't stand a chance. The other interesting thing is that I think like night shifts as a registrar, you really feel like the weight on your shoulders compared to being a resident over the night, because you actually have someone to delegate to. As a resident, you can do jobs, but it's the decision making that ultimately falls on the registrar, not the resident. So to have that feeling of onus, of that feeling of responsibility, you feel the pressure, I think. So it's I don't think, I'm definitely, after 2 shifts, I'm definitely not feeling like used to it. It's definitely very unsettling, and especially when you haven't got called in a little bit and you're holding the phone, you're like wondering like what is going to come through next. It's kind of a bit like, oh, I don't know, like what could walk through the door. You're waiting for like a real sick patient to come through. There was a patient early on in the shift who was actually one of a different surgeon's private patients that I just spoke directly to that private surgeon for and got advice and a plan from them. And I guess I was wondering, like, so if you think about it like this, so a patient goes under an operation with a surgeon in private, the person on call is a different surgeon. Who do you update? If you call the person who's on call but not the person who did the operation, they might think, well, why'd you call me? Just call the private surgeon. And I guess that's the risk of it. But then technically they're on call and this patient's under their care. So do you have to speak to them? Yeah, it's a bit of a sticky situation. Oh boy, it's starting to rain. We need to get in bed soon, get tucked up nice and tight, because I'm feeling snoozy. I very well may go a Macca's run on the way home just to keep my energy levels up, because I'm already starting to feel a bit. I don't think we can keep up any more conversation though. I need to focus on the road. There's rain. I'm yawning.